What is going on, YouTube? So I wanted to come back. Might be my last video of the day here today, but at least start a new series. I had covered my 2020 NBA and 2021 NBA mock drafts here in the last couple of days, at least going through the lottery. But I wanted to take more of a deep dive position by, not really a deep dive, but at least talk about this draft class position by position, because this is a pretty interesting draft class. There's no clear-cut number one prospect like there was last year, the year before. And I think there's a lot of teams in the lottery that are going to roll the dice. This is a really good international class as well. So I think there could kind of be some hidden gems in this class, but I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to do my top five position by position. I'm going to start today with point guards, which is also one of the least certain positions in this 2020 draft class. So going from 1 to 5, go ahead and start at number 1. Number 1 for me is pretty easy. It's LaMelo Ball. I think he's got the highest ceiling of any player in this draft class. I mentioned that in my mock draft. He is a 6'7", about 185-pound point guard. He obviously part of the Ball family, played about a dozen games with the Illawarra Hawks over in the NBL in Australia. A lot of the more known parts of his skill set, decent on-ball defender, good length, great in transition, good in driving to the rim, great facilitator. But a lot of his weaknesses were also highlighted in the NBL as well. Only shot about 25% from deep, 37.5% of outs from the field, and he was taking a good amount of three-pointers per game. That wasn't on a limited. That wasn't on a limited reference by any means. So that the shooting stroke and the and just the overall shooting percentage and efficiency from deep is very much a problem, just like it was with his brother Lonzo. Yeah, he was taking north of 6 attempts from three-point range per game. He got injured about halfway through, maybe a little bit earlier than that, through the NBL season. Had to return to the States and kind of been working to get ready for the draft since. Now, I think if LaMelo Ball can kind of fix his shot like Lonzo did this season, that he could be a pretty good starting, quality starting point guard, all the way up to more of like an all-star range point guard for whatever team lands him. And I think he really is one of the few potentially franchise-changing talents in this draft, kind of in that ballpark that I would consider with, I don't know, maybe just like Denny Avdia if he really, really lives up to the hype, and then like Anthony Edwards. There's not a whole lot of high ceilings with this draft class, keep in mind. So move to number 2. Number 2 is a little bit more difficult. 1 through 3, I think, is the place where you could really see the top 10 picks falling. But number 2, I have Killian Hayes. He's out of 6'5" point guard. Played EuroLeague in France. Again, one of the younger prospects and more raw prospects in this draft class. There's a lot of encouraging signs from his game and his stats from playing over in EuroLeague the last year or two. He's an efficient shooter from deep. He's a little bit one-dimensional as far as an offense, like a scorer or playmaker is concerned. He's not the same playmaker that you're going to get out of a LaMelo Ball or even like a Cole Anthony or an RJ Hampton. You're going to get more of like a solid shooter, good length. He is smart in transition. He's an underrated athlete, but he's not going to blow anyone away. And literally, sometimes he has trouble blowing by people and driving from the perimeter. He's very much one-handed. I think if you drive him to, I can't remember if he's right-handed or left-handed, but I know there's a lot of film. If you drive him to his right or to his left, he's really only got one strong hand. So like I said, he's got to continue to round out his offensive game. The encouraging signs are there that he was increasingly efficient, figuring out his shot selection. Normally you don't get that out of a point guard that's that young. And he's also a very, very smart on and off ball defender. I think a lot of his game is going to depend on what role he needs to fill in the NBA. I don't think by any means he's going to be, again, like a franchise-changing talent. I think kind of the most you can hope for out of him, and players can always blow you off the page and things like that. But I think you got to put him in a situation where you have a decent supporting cast, a good growing young core, and you really just need a smart, lengthy point guard that's, that is versatile. I say he's one-dimensional just in terms of what really stands out about his game, but he's versatile in terms of a lot of little things that he can do pretty well. Again, I think he's about a 39% shooter from three-point range, 91% shooter from the line. Whenever his role did grow, I believe he played with Ratio Farm ULM over in EuroCup. And like I said, he was really efficient with the looks that he got. He does not turn the ball over a whole lot. normally like an 18, 19-year-old point guard, you don't really get a 2 or 3 to 1 assist to turnover ratio when they're put in a bigger role, but he was able to handle that. So, like I said, not anyone that's going to blow you off or that's going to blow you away just from his film or highlights or anything like that. But like I said, I think a solid point guard that, in terms of the younger point guards in this class, can give you a lot and can make an immediate impact. Number 3, I have Tyrese Halliburton. It's really close between Halliburton and Killian Hayes for me. Halliburton's kind of fits a similar profile in a sense to Hayes, where there's not a whole lot that's going to blow you off the page, but he does a lot of things like pretty well. And I think that versatility is going to help him stand out right away in the NBA. He was a consistent, solid shooter at Iowa State, I believe about around like a 42, 43% shooter from deep. He's a good driver. He's a little bit quicker off the bounce than you would get from Hayes. And he does have good length. He's a good defender. Actually a really good defender at that. I think he averaged about 2.5 steals and about 1 block per game last season at Iowa State. It really blows you away in terms of just the advanced metrics that he put up in college. And I get sometimes that doesn't translate right away, but 11.6 box plus minus rating is pretty ridiculous. 4% steal rate. Those are things that can translate to the NBA in some regard, that it's probably not going to be that much of a statistical outlier. About 6'4", 6'5". He needs to put on some weight. He had a hand injury his sophomore season at Iowa State that I think could have limited what he could have done at the end of the run there, but the season ended early anyway. And I think a player that realistically will fall around the 5 to 10 range in this draft. I don't think he should reach too far in the top 5, but again, I think he's a quality point guard. I don't like using the term really high floor because there's always things that can happen to prospects, and sometimes they break through in ways you haven't seen before, but he's a little bit more of an established point guard. I believe he's about 20 or 21 heading into this draft. So, again, solid pick. If you need to know what you're looking for, then Halliburton could be a good fit again, around maybe like probably closer to the 7 or 10 range, 5 to 10 though. I could see. Number 4, I've got RJ Hampton. I kind of put an asterisk next to Hampton because he could kind of fit in point guard, combo guard, shooting guard, any of those. He definitely is a good on ball or like a good primary ball handler. He's very twitchy, very quick, good playmaker. I think that he's got a good ways to go though before he's put into more of a high usage role in the NBA. He needs to prove himself more that he's going to be a capable and efficient playmaker. It always kind of surprises me when I look at that. He did have an assist to turnover ratio around 1.5 to 1 or 2 to 1 during his one season playing in the NBL. Playing 15 games with the New Zealand Breakers, averaged about 9 points per game, about 2.5 assists, 4 rebounds, 1.1 steals. Better defender than I think a lot of people expected him to be in the NBL, so that's an encouraging sign. That wasn't really something that was too solid for him coming out of high school. I think the concerning areas still are he is turnover prone at times, and it's kind of a downhill slope for him. And he was a better shooter in high school, I think, than he was over in the NBL. Shot around 40% from the field, around 29% from 3, and like 67% from the line. He's going to have to be a more efficient shooter than that with how much he does get to the free throw line and how high usage of a player he is, and the fact that he just wasn't really distributing the ball around all that much. I mean, we're talking, that was on around 9 field goal attempts per game and around 3 to 4 3-pointers. So that's gotta be something that improves. I do like Hampton just as a playmaker, though. I think you're going to have to be a little bit more patient with him. There's a lot of parts of his game that are still pretty raw. But I think he's a nice fit for a team that's looking to add a playmaker in the second or third unit off the bench. Got a good supporting cast around the 10 to 15 range. And then number 5, I got Cole Anthony. I think there's a little bit of a split between Cole Anthony and RJ Hampton. I like Hampton a little bit better. But since the start, I have like Cole Anthony for any team that needs more of that microwave score off the bench. I think he could eventually turn into a starting caliber point guard, but it just depends on how his offensive efficiency moves along, and just his overall defensive game, because he's never been that good of a defender. If he can even become like a net neutral defender in his early days in college, or excuse me, in the NBA, then that's already going to be a big step forward for him. He was never really a net positive defender for UNC. At best, you could really hope for a net neutral. I think he averaged about like 0.5 assists. He averaged around 1 steal per game. Yeah, so sometimes he was good at getting that out and running in transition, but his defensive rating also sat around 105 or 110, which was worse than UNC as a whole. So Again, really good scorer, good playmaker, average around 19 points per game, 4 assists, like 6 rebounds. So again, surprisingly good rebounder, but he also averaged like 3.5 or 4 turnovers per game. So very high usage player. He's got to get the turnover problems under control. Runs very well in transition. He's very quick. When he's in rhythm, he's a good shooter. But again, more of a volume scorer, microwave scorer until that consistency kind of irons out and he becomes more of a consistent player on the defensive end of the floor. I think you're looking at more like a second or third, point guard. But again, higher ceiling, I think. Could be a good value find. I like him kind of around like the 12 to 20 range. I don't think he'll fall as far as 20, maybe like the 12 to 15 or 12 to 18 range, a little bit lower than Hampton. I did want to throw in an honorable mention here, and I might do that in a few of the other segments of the big board because RJ Hampton's not really like a true point guard by any means. He's more of a combo guard. I just feel like he fits more at the 1 than he does at the 2. So I wanted to throw in the honorable mention. If you wanted to take RJ Hampton out of the mix, slide Cole Anthony up to number 4 in that case, then it would be, and at least in my opinion, Teo Maledon. Again, good, lengthy point guard. I like Maledon. He's just kind of got a volatile draft stock. Really, really high ceiling as a defender and kind of a twitchy, athletic, gifted playmaker on the offensive end of the floor. Shooting numbers are very inconsistent playing overseas in Europe, and he's a little bit younger, definitely more of a raw prospect. But I think he has the real possibility of sliding down to like the mid to late 20s. And for any team that's looking to kind of get a steal at that point in the draft of a player that it was improving at a pretty high mark. I think the last team he played for was, I don't know exactly how to say that, ASVEL over in France in the Euro Cup circuit. Again, younger point guard around the same age as Killian Hayes, still kind of early on, 19. So again, could be a player that if you've got a defined role and you need, you're kind of looking for maybe an insurance policy for the future, want to invest in someone maybe again mid to late first round that could turn into a quality starter a little bit down the road, maybe 2-3 years, then I think Teo Maledon's a really interesting prospect. But anyway, that pretty much does it for the point guard segment of the big board. I'll do the shooting guards tomorrow. So that's pretty much it. So yeah.